cattle mutilations have always fascinated me. They're very bizarre. Someone who grew up on a farm, haven't experienced those type of stories, but I've seen other weird things out there on the farm that I still can't explain. So I'm excited to get into that story with what's going on with this one gentleman has experienced down in Texas. And he's got a lot of stories. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm Shane Cashman, by the way, if you forgot since last week. Sometimes I do. And we're happy to be here. I'm joined by Alex. What's up?
What's going on, Shane? Hi, everyone. Good to see you.
We made another week.
Yes, we have. Sick again, but
anything weird on your way home last?
On my way home,
you made it home safe?
Nothing unusual. Made it home safe. I did have a weird week though.
Yeah.
And like kind of in the topic, like the realm of like the animals that we're going to talk about tonight.
Oh no.
So
you got attacked by a
it's
cow?
a little silly. No, not a cow. No, it's about fish.
Okay.
So I have a fish tank that we got like for the kids, like a 5-gallon fish tank,
Okay.
you know?
Yeah.
And we always have like mollies or guppies or platies in there, like super peaceful, easy fish to take care of.
Mm-hmm.
They don't live long though.
Okay.
And so we had 2 fish in the tank. One died. So I went to the store and I got 2 more fish, put them in the tank. And the first few days, one of the fish was hiding. It was just like hiding behind the warmer. It would hide like in the decorations in the tank. And I thought, oh, okay, she must be female, and my male fish is trying to impregnate her. That's why she's hiding. Well, now she disappeared.
What do you mean?
She's gone.
She left?
Yeah, but I don't know how.
Fish rapture.
And well, Chris is just like, well, sometimes these things just disappear.
How do they just disappear?
I know. Well, I'm like, so I'm calling the pet store. I'm like, do you think like the fish ate the other fish? And they're like, no, these are peaceful fish. They wouldn't. They were like, maybe it probably died. Like, check your filter. Dude, I checked my filter. I've cleaned my tank, checked the gravel, checked everything twice. Gone.
Wow. Can you bring the fish tank in next week so we can observe
really?
it? I mean, we can do an autopsy on the living fish right here on camera.
Okay.
Fish mutilation.
I mean, at
to
this
see
point,
if the other fish is inside.
there's no way. It's only like a thumbnail bigger. Like, there's no
weird.
way. If it swallowed the whole thing, it'd be impossible.
Is there a way it got like obliterated in the filter and it's so small that it just like dissolved and then the other fish drank it?
I don't think
a
that's
vampire
possible.
fish?
And if it did try to eat it, it would have like guts all over the tank, right?
Unless it was very
like not an
unless
eyeball.
it's methodical.
Come on.
Look at the cow
These are
mutilation pictures that
stupid
we're going to pull up later. Some fish are not stupid. Some fish are very smart, you know, and they clean up. They don't want to leave a crime scene.
Oh, okay, then that's
You've
it.
never seen those kind of fish? They're like, we got to not be found out. You know, we want to. They're like cannibal fish.
Maybe
they're very good.
I don't know about that.
What do the kids say?
Oh, the kids don't even know what's
Did
going
the
on.
kids take it?
No way.
Have you not considered that maybe?
No way. No.
And it's in the fridge somewhere.
I guess that's possible. They are 2 and 4, so.
My kids would probably take it. So I might be projecting a little bit, but it seems like it's possible.
Well, then I was like, maybe it's somehow like dove out of the tank in the inch that there is open at the top. Mm-hmm. But then what? Well, I mean, wouldn't there be evidence like it was splashing around? Like, I mean, maybe my dog and my cat ate it.
Maybe we should do some kind of like a radiation test around to see if there's any portals that slip through. We get like Ashton Forbes on. We'll bring him over and we'll test to see if any like vortex opened up.
Okay.
Maybe it went wherever the Malaysian flight went.
And just
Your fish and the Malaysian flight are in the same place. We're gonna look into it. That's good.
Isn't that weird?
That's good. That's crazy.
I've been thinking about it all week. Like, I know I should just move on with my life.
No.
And Chris
How
is
can
like,
you?
these things just disappear. I'm like, no.
Chris, you're convincing yourself that a paranormal event did not happen in your fish tank, but it did. Something clearly happened, and we're going to get to the bottom of it.
I need answers.
I'm sorry for you and the fish, but we'll get to the bottom of it.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
That
We'll
sounds great.
just bring in the fish tank next week.
Okay.
It should be easy. So I don't think I experienced anything weird. I think it was all just a fairly normal week, which is who knows what happened. Did anything happen to me? No.
No,
just
nothing.
trees falling in front of me on the way here.
Yeah, it's pretty
I
bad.
risked my life to get here today.
It's pretty bad out
Because someone flipped on the weather machine a little too hard today out here in West Virginia, and the wind is just too crazy. Mm-hmm. And they're knocking over trees on the way here. I was dodging them like crazy. So, all right. Our guest today is Paul. For those who've been listening for a few months now, you might remember Paul calling in, but surprise, surprise, we had a bit of technical difficulties that day, and it didn't work out so well. and he talked about some cattle mutilation stuff, but we didn't really get to get into it as much as I would have hoped. So he's back, and he and I have talked. We've exchanged a bunch of emails. We've been on the phone once before, and he's got a lot of interesting stories. So I'm really looking forward to talking to Paul. So let's bring him on. Paul, sir, can you hear us?
Hey guys, nice to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us. If you don't mind, before we get off and away with these stories, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you're up to, where you're from?
Yeah, I'm about 63 years old. I am originally from Texas. I've lived in New Mexico and also Montana. I'm back in Texas now. And like we were talking, my life is like any other. I've had a few. My first memory. I'll just say this real quick. My first memory was in Alabama. My dad was with NASA and all, but I was probably like 3 years old. I just remember watching. This is weird, but I was watching myself as a 3-year-old standing in the garage door opening during an electrical storm, and I just remember every time it flashed lightning, I saw these 4 or 5 like Roman pillars, and every flash they crumbled more and more and more until they were rubble. And for some reason that memory sticks in my mind. This is like I think like 3 years old, and from there I don't have a lot of memory to about 9, but for whatever reason.
That's interesting. What the pillars were like in the sky, like how did they appear to you?
They were just out there, like across the street or something, which there are woods out there, I believe at the time. I was so young. I just had that memory. I don't know where it came from. That's what I have.
Right.
It's just a memory I have. It's been put into me. I've researched it a little bit. I think there's a Roman thing you can go look at that has 4 or 5 pillars. It looks just like that. It doesn't have a top or really a bottom. It's just the pillars.
Huh.
I don't know.
That's interesting. It's a very symbolic image for a child to be seeing, especially if, like watching them crumble. It seems symbolic, and maybe we'll come back to that later on, knowing your story. If you don't mind, are you able to tell us a little more about your father and NASA? That's an interesting connection.
Well, yeah, I grew up in, he was brought on. He was going to be an astronaut, but he was colorblind. He couldn't do that, so. He ended up building the Saturn V rockets, but I grew up in the neighborhood with all the astronauts. Neil Armstrong was right down the road, not to give out a bunch of names and stuff here, but Cernan, Evans, all of them. So I grew up in the Apollo era. Of course, I was, 10, 11, 12 at the time, but I still was able to be right there when all that happened, which was really kind of cool, especially through the shuttle program. I mean, Scobie, who went up there that didn't make it, but her son used to work for me, and it was a very tight community, but especially during the Saturn V episode. And I even have stuff that had gone to the moon. Some people don't think we went to the moon, but we did. And there might have been some stuff that points to other reasons that you don't think we did, but I believe we did.
Well, I got lots of theories on the moon. I want to come back to the astronaut stuff real quick because I love this conversation, but I think maybe the moon is not what we think it is. There's lots of theories on the moon. One theory I've heard that I found interesting is that perhaps we did go, but the footage we saw was not the real footage because there was a lot of dead bodies on the moon that they didn't want to show the American people.
Yeah, 100%. I totally believe they did that. They probably shot a lot of stuff in the studios too, just to cover up some things and all, but I don't think like everything else they want to hide. I think there's a lot that has been untold, and hopefully coming soon we can find some of these things out.
I would love that. In the town where I grew up, there's an astronaut who's buried there. I forget his name. I want to say Colonel White. He was the first guy, whatever his name was. He was the first first American astronaut to walk in outer space. And whatever he did, there's audio of it on YouTube. You can hear him. He actually does not want to return to the shuttle. His story is pretty tragic. He ended up dying, I think, in Houston in a fire in the space shuttle a year or two later. And then he was buried in our little town of Highland Falls. But that's a really interesting place to grow up, surrounded by astronauts. That must have
Yeah.
had some a
Yeah,
profound
especially I
effect
was
on you.
always hanging out with the astronaut kids and stuff. We just rode our motorcycles and did it a regular day. But I tell you, those astronauts, they were like heroes. They were like rock stars. I mean, they were given everything. They had everything, but they knew a lot too. And when I, even when I was young, they would make, I thought at the time, jokes about seeing aliens and stuff. You know, I'd talk to them about going to the moon and what it was like and stuff, and they'd just say, "Yeah, we see a lot of strange lights and stuff," you know. But
Hmm.
they knew what was going on.
So you think they were seeing stuff up there?
Oh, they did see stuff up there. We were good friends with the Apollo 17 crew, Ron Evans especially, who's passed away since. But he circled the moon more than any other astronaut, and he said he saw a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Hmm. In terms of, do you know if he was saying like crafts or beings?
Well, I don't think they could say that if they
Hmm.
even, you know, did see that stuff, which I think they did. But he would speculate like, you know, he saw a lot of strange lights. They would say stuff like that.
Hmm.
And but you could just see their undertone a little bit. And you know, as I got older, I picked up on it some more. But they were half kidding, but they were also being serious. And it's almost as if they couldn't talk about it.
Right. What do you make of us not returning to the moon in quite some time?
It's probably very political on what they found up there. I think there's a lot up there. Yeah.
What do you think? Like, and do you think it's extraterrestrial, or do you think it's something else?
Past civilizations, I think.
Interesting. Like a breakaway civilization from Earth, or something that's just been up there for longer than us?
It could be, you know, longer than us maybe, but you know, it's just the remnants of past civilizations possibly, and you know, everything else. And there's just so many you know, it's like, you know, remember that one shuttle flight that came into reentry and just blew up, and they just kind of swept it under the rug almost, you know,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that happens, and it just doesn't get enough attention, I guess. Um, the Challenger was a very highly publicized flight, and that, you know, was a big deal. You
Mm.
know, it blew up and it was tragic by far. But the other ones they just didn't talk much about. You know, it
Yeah.
just was interesting.
Yeah. Kind of like the one I was referencing too. Although it wasn't in orbit yet, it happened here, but it's just it was a pretty tragic situation with some pretty big names in that shuttle, and they just you know, I think maybe part of it is they're afraid of losing funding, you know, because they're spending so much money at that point, and some pretty big failures. But yeah, that's a very interesting way to grow up, surrounded by people.
Yeah,
You know.
I remember. I guess I was only maybe 11 or so, or not even that, 9 years old, I guess, when Neil Armstrong, you know, stepped on the moon, and he was just 2 blocks down from us. I remember still they blocked off our whole neighborhood. All the press was in from over the out of the country, and so they had these big satellite dishes set up in his front yard, so you know the family could hear them talk, and it was just all hoopla like that. But it was very interesting.
Was
It was
there
really interesting to, you know, be in the neighborhood when the astronauts would come back from their missions, and we'd have parades for them, and it was neat.
was there
Yeah.
like a sense of anxiety, you know, sending these men off in your town? Like, do you remember? Were people afraid they might not come back?
Well, yeah, it was like the Apollo 13 mission. I was,
Right.
you know, I'm not going to use names and stuff here, but they're kids and all.
Hmm.
And we actually, you know, we were watching that all live. All the families would get together and do their praying and stuff for them and all, for their reentry and all. It was all real.
Wow, that is wild.
Yeah.
And then there were rumors of extraterrestrials or something else going on. You know, we've seen like Buzz Aldrin. He likes to hint at things here and there.
Hmm.
I'm curious. I don't think his story's over. I think we're going to hear more from him, perhaps this year, because he seemed at the end of last year like he was going to announce something. You know, and who knows? Maybe he just wants attention. It's hard to say because he's kind of he seems like a character.
Yeah, they were all characters. They really were, and a lot of them like to talk, you know. And I
Right.
don't think they liked that. You know,
They definitely
they'd
don't.
go out and do their little talks. People would, you know, hire them to tell a group of people their trip to the moon. They were careful what they said. You know, when I listened to that stuff.
So, how old were you when you left that community?
What's that?
How old were you when you left that community?
How did I start living in that community? You said.
How old were you when you left it?
Okay, we're talking over here. Let's
yeah.
try one more time.
How old were you when you left that community?
Oh, how old was I when I left it? I was about 16, 17.
Okay. And Oh wait, before we go, did you experience anything weird in that area as a kid, other than the Roman columns thing?
No, not really.
Okay,
No, that was down in Alabama. We then
right.
moved to South Houston area, the Clear Lake area,
Okay,
where the Johnson Space Center was put in, and I was in. They just had one subdivision, and that's where they just put everybody. So we're all intertwined with all the astronauts and everybody. Even Buzz Aldrin was in our neighborhood. They were all in there.
so where did you wind up after that place?
Well, I ended up starting a business there and all that, and then when I kind of semi-retired, I went out to New Mexico.